So I'm going to talk about women in advertising, specifically women that appear in ads, specifically television ads. When I was a child, there were a lot of beautiful women in television ads, and occasionally you would hear people complain, and they would say, "Oh, these women are not representative of the typical woman. They have." Big breasts or blonde hair or whatever they would complain about, but you really didn't hear it that often because uh, people, in the 80s, there wasn't a lot of communication of people's ideas. So I traveled around the world, and I'm going to tell you my experience with other countries. In Italy, I went to Italy in the 80s. This was at the same exact time, and I saw naked women on TV. And they were doing aerobics. And I was told that that was common in Italy. They did use like digital graphics to cover up part of their body, but when I say part, I mean they would cover up one out of two. They exposed and they covered up both at the same time. So even if it were clothing, they were still exposing themselves. So another matter is, I lived in South America for like 10 years, and the women on TV have huge breasts and they wear extreme high heels. And people like Shakira. Shakira, is she the one? There's a woman who's from Colombia. There's a couple of them that are famous. One of them was on a TV show like Modern Family, whatever. They have a reputation. They're more demonstrative about their looks. Like if a woman looks good, they're proud of it. It's not like that in the United States. And when I say I lived in South America for 10 years, I mean in like around 2010. So they're very proud of the way they look, which is why Hispanic people catcall. I saw people catcalling in South America, and women were proud when a man catcalls them. They would smile and they would think how great it was, which is very different from the United States. In the United States, the trend was to move to like the single mom look. And the famous one is Flo from that insurance commercial where she's not an amazingly beautiful woman, but she's not an ugly woman. They say girl next door. But of course, a woman's idea of girl next door is absolutely gorgeous. A man's idea is plain, right? So, my opinion is that people are really making a big deal about it. I think it has to do with the fact that people are obese. There's an obesity epidemic in America. In the 70s, if you compare a woman from the 1970s to a woman in the 1980s, the women in the 1970s were just absolutely beautiful. And in the 80s, a lot of fat people. Not that much, not as much as today. I'm a fat person. When I was a kid, I remember looking at it, talking about in the late 80s, looking at my high school graduation photo, and there were like 30 kids in my class, my homeroom class, and there were two of us that were fat and everyone else was thin, and I was really ashamed and embarrassed. But that's the reality. I don't think that men are the cause of women with body issues. I really am not a believer in that. Um, okay, so I just wanted to share my opinion. Not every place in the world is the same. I live in Asia now, and it's very different. Everyone's thin in a large portion of the world. In the wealthy countries, people are fat, and in the poor countries, people are thin. Over here, you don't see people complaining about women's body shape. We just never hear that.